Now, a question I've been asking myself lately is, should brands like Traxxas and Arrma be a little bit worried about some of the budget and affordable brands out there like MJX and Rlaarlo? Now, when you look at what you're getting with some of the more affordable brands these days, can you even justify going for a larger brand anymore? And I'll use Traxxas as an example here. If you look at something like their Bandit XL5, that thing's been around for a very long time. It's underpowered. It's fairly expensive when you consider what you're getting. Can you even justify something like that in a world where you've got cars from MJX and Rlaarlo, which are offering so much more performance and sometimes for a lot less money? So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper and we're going to talk a little bit more about this topic. Now, I'm not going to be doing this one on my own. My good friend Gary's also going to come along and give me a hand with this one. Now, he's a massive Arrma fan, but lately we've been talking about exactly the same topic and we've both come to the agreement that we really do think that you can get more for your money with some of these more budget and affordable brands. So what we'll do is we'll call Gary and make a start at going through quite a lot of the things that I've got written down in front of me. Right, Gary, welcome to the More Beyond RC podcast.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Pleasure to be here.
You're always welcome, mate. Anytime, you know that. You've done some episodes with me before. You're a very knowledgeable bloke, which is why I like having you on, Gary.
Well, I've been called many things. Knowledgeable usually isn't one of them.
Right, now, I know you like your Arrma stuff. I know you also like a lot of the budget cars, that, you know, a lot of the more sort of affordable cars that are being released now and hitting the market. On the intro there, I did kind of mention that I want to talk a little bit today about whether or not, you know, big brands like Traxxas and Arrma should be a little bit worried about some of the more affordable brands out there and the more sort of budget brands. You know, I mean, even that on its own is questionable these days. Can you still call them budget and affordable brands because their prices are shooting up? But for today, at least, we're going to call them budget and affordable brands. Now, when I say budget and affordable brands, the two main brands that I'm going to refer to in today's episode are going to be MJX and Rlaarlo, because I think we're both in agreement that they're probably the market leaders now when it comes to the more budget side of things. Would you agree with that still, or has your mind changed?
No, definitely. Admittedly, the prices are sort of creeping up, but compared to the big players, they are budget. But there's quality, durability, and everything else is sometimes not just on par, but exceeds the big players. So yeah, definitely.
So let's say the big two then are obviously Traxxas and Arrma. Traxxas are kind of like the OG, you know, the OG when it comes to ready to runs. You know, that they made at a time where kits were very popular, but obviously there's always been a section of people, a group of people that weren't really into the kits but wanted something quick and easy, something that you could just throw a battery in and go out and have some fun. Traxxas were the ones that kind of come along and thought, look, let's start ready to runs. I'm pretty sure they weren't the only ones, but they're definitely the most popular, I think. They pretty much, I think, have been kind of in charge of the ready to run market for a very long time. They made RC accessible to the masses on a much easier level compared to, you know, building a kit and all the other stuff. Now, their brand identity, I want to talk a little bit about that because they're known for being tough, durable, user friendly, and I think it's most people know in the hobby that you can walk into pretty much any hobby store and you're going to be able to pick up parts for Traxxas and everything else. What's your take on Traxxas? I know you're not really a Traxxas fan. You've had a couple in the past, but what, just very briefly, what is your take on Traxxas as a brand?
Traxxas is a brand. Obviously, they're a massive company. Many fingers in many pies. They're out there. They appeal to those within the hobby, those stalwart Traxxas fans, and it looks like they sort of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You don't really see, other than really the XRT, really, that's sort of been out there, that's been, you know, markedly different to everything that they've produced over the last several years. They've sort of got their formula and they've stuck with it, and the customers have stuck with it also. But you see those prices creep up and up and up and up and up, much higher, frankly, than the comparable, even the other big brand Arrma. They are significantly more expensive.
I mean, Armour are kind of like the new contender, aren't they? I mean, they've been around since what, 2009, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it was called something else prior. I can't remember what it was called prior to that. Um, it was before Horizon Hobby purchased them, because they were about to go bust because they had copied one of Traxxas's
Yeah, it was the Nero, wasn't it? The
design.
Evo.
That's it.
Mm,
Yeah, with the cantilever springs.
hmm
Um, so yeah, but Arrma, I'm a fanboy. Admittedly, I'll put my
Yeah,
hands up.
that is your
Can't help
YouTube
it.
name.
But I think that there is. I think there's a complacency by Traxxas more so than Arrma that people will just spend the money.
Mm.
Um, you've got two cars that are virtually the same. You've got the Mini Slash and the Mojave. Mini Slash 2S only, because it's got the BL 2S power system in, and that's on sale for £310. The comparable Mojave 223S is £230.
Mm.
And you're sort of like, the justification for the price difference is crazy. And then you've got the likes of MJX and Rlaarlo that are producing sometimes better than both of the big boys with quality, durability, speed in some respects, with some of them. At some points, half the cost.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've
And,
noticed.
but again, it, I think they're relying upon people like myself. I'm a fanboy. That we will just continue to go back and buy their products constantly without sort of considering other things.
I think it's that brand loyalty, Gary. You know, it's one of it's like iPhones. It's like Apple with their iPhone, isn't it? You know, they'll release an iPhone and it might not be that much better compared to the previous one, but because of brand loyalty, people will head out and go and buy one. It's very similar when it comes to Traxxas. You know, they've been around for 30 years or whatever it is, if not longer. And I think it's that loyalty that they've built up throughout the years. But unfortunately, I would say some of the base level cars, you know, like the Bandit XL5, for example, which is what, £230. I don't think the technology level has caught up to today's standards, but they're asking for this, you know, a lot of money for very little technology, if you will. You know,
Yeah,
we're talking 2025. Brushless electronics are pretty much affordable now. I don't. Why are we paying £230 for a base level Traxxas with a brushed power system when you
yeah,
can get something from one of the other brands, which is brushless 3S, sometimes 4S out the box, and it's possibly cheaper than an entry level Traxxas? To me, I just find that surreal.
yeah. It's crazy. I mean, not knocking brushed power systems. Brushed power systems have got their place within the hobby, primarily sort of crawlers because of the torque, the low end speed, and the control and everything else. They have their place.
Or maybe
But
like even with
for
some of the older,
bashers,
you know, like the vintage stuff, the Tamiya's and everything, they still primarily use brushed electronics.
yeah. Um, so they have their place within the RC environment. But for bashers, a stampede. the 2-wheel drive and the 4-wheel drive. I think they've stopped doing the 4-wheel drive uh, brushed now. I think it's only the 2-wheel drive. Arrma have done the same with the Gorgon.
Mm.
You know, the Fury they did as a brushed. The Groms, when they first come out, all brushed. There's, I understand from a company standpoint, you're sort of giving your customers a bit of a taste of what's to come, but your customers are seeing what else is out there because of people like yourself within YouTube doing reviews on not just the high end stuff, but the more affordable RCs that are out on the market or coming to the market that are comparable price of a brushed system, but with brushless, you know, much hardier parts, proper metal diffs, metal drivetrain rather than composite, sometimes woefully inadequate drivetrains, specifically the Minimax, the Granite Grom when it first came out, the diffs blowing up. But you've got 16th and 14th scale MJX and Rlaarlo cars that you can absolutely brutalise, and you sort of.
I mean, it does make you wonder. It does make you wonder, Gary, what you're actually getting for your money. Like, what are you actually paying for when it comes to Traxxas? Now, I've got a couple of things written down here. I don't know if you'll be in agreement, but when you're paying Traxxas money, you're getting proprietary electronics. You know, you are getting a huge ecosystem of parts. You know, pretty much a lot of the hobby stores out there will stock the parts. I think that's always been a thing throughout the years. Whereas if you walk into a hobby store, you won't find Rlaarlo bits, for example. You won't find MJX bits, for example. It's definitely getting better, especially for us here, because, you know, one of the biggest shops here in the UK, Model Sport, they are starting to stock a lot of, you know, the sort of the more budget brands now. Serious RC, of course. Mike at Serious RC, he has a lot of the MJX Rlaarlo bits as well.
Yeah.
Obviously with Traxxas, you know, if you buy a Traxxas truck, keep it for a year and then sell it on the second-hand market, you probably get quite a lot of your money back. They definitely have a higher resale value compared to, you know, buying an MJX and then trying to sell an MJX a year later. You'll probably get a quarter of the money that you paid for it. You know, so you have got that side to it. With Arrma, I think Arrma are kind of known as the proper bashers in the RC world, you know, if you will. I have got written down here that they've got robust sort of components, but I think we both know that's not always the case. But what Arrma are good for, I think, is appealing to the slightly more the newcomers to the hobby with the modular design of, let's say, like the 3S cars, for example. I preferred the 3S BLX cars, but of course we've moved on to the 223S cars for the time being. That might be the way it's going to be from now on. Obviously there's known issues with the 223S cars, but what we can't deny is they're easy to work on.
They are incredibly easy to work on
because of the modular design that they offer.
Yeah, it makes things less daunting from initially starting in recently into the hobby after a hiatus of over 20 years, getting back into the hobby with a TT02 build, doing that, and then getting a Centon 3S BLX. Working on this Centon was an absolute breeze in comparison to doing a Tamiya build. Yeah. And Tamiya builds aren't, well, the TT02 certainly isn't the hardest Tamiya kit to put together. So it goes to show that Arrma had really thought a lot about not just the purchase of the car, the running of the car, but they thought about maintenance, upgradability, and just the simplicity of being able to identify parts and changing parts. There's a lot of facets within what they did with the 3S BLX cars rather, that sort of really made them shine higher than or brighter than a lot of the others within the 1/10 scale 3S kind of area.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So, all right, let's talk about the up and comers then. Let's talk about MJX and Rlaarlo. Now, again, like I said previously, a little while back, these two are kind of like the market leaders, I would say. We used to have loads of budget brands, WL Toys, High Boxing, all the different ones out there. Now, there's only these two, I think, that have really skyrocketed their way up, all the way up to the top, because they're innovating, they're producing new designs, they're not copying everybody else. Like with WL Toys, they would copy LC Racing's, they were basically clones of LC Racing. Whereas with Rlaarlo and MJX, they're coming up with their own unique designs and they're kind of perfecting them and everything else. But what I want to talk about really is what you're actually getting with an MJX and a Rlaarlo, because some of them are very impressive for the money.
Yeah, definitely. Out of the blue, a 1/7 scale, the 7303. Absolutely fantastic. I know there's been a lot of not I wouldn't say hate thrown towards it, but maybe hate thrown towards MJX trying to say that it's a copy of the King Motors version.
Two completely different cars.
Completely different.
People have commented saying, "Oh, it's just a King Motors." It's not. They're two different cars.
Yeah, I think L to the W did a side-by-side comparison of both cars, and there are huge differences between both cars. They've got the same body, but underneath that body, it's similar, but it's completely different. And as Ben and yourself have had lots of fun with the 7303, I'm still yet to have a go on one. I've been sorely tempted to get one. But hopefully we'll have a bit of fun with that in a couple of weeks' time. Put that up against my own fraction.
It does make me think.
Yeah.
Like I know you're saying about the 7303. That's a great example, because let me ask you this: if that was from Traxxas or ARRMA, I mean, how much is it? £360, is it?
Yeah,
360. For us to buy here in the UK from Cirrus RC, for example, that's a 1/7 scale car, 4S capable. How much do you think that would cost if that was a Traxxas or an ARRMA? I'm going to say double.
Traxxas 600 plus, ARRMA close to 600 easily. I mean, you look at the Fiesta Rally, the price on that. What are they going for now?
400 plus, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're 1/8. Are they 1/8 scale or are they 1/10?
They are one. I think they're 1/8. I have reviewed the 2S BL 2BLX, whatever it's called. I can't remember what the it wasn't the. I think the VXL one is obviously quite a bit more because it's 3S capable. I think that's 480 maybe. I can't remember how much the 2S version is. I have reviewed that on my channel. It was a while ago. I can't remember.
But you're getting a comparable car, comparable electronics, 4S capable.
Well, you're getting a larger car as well, aren't you?
Yeah. For significantly less money. You're getting a car that costs you less than their 2S version. It's sort of like the justification. All right, you think, well, they're having to pay for the license. MJX paid for the license for the Citroen body.
Have you seen that there's the new Polo version
of
that? Or I think I'm allowed to mention it.
The MJX?
Yeah. So
really?
You know, I reviewed the little one.
Yeah.
They've just announced a full size 1/7 scale version of that. You haven't seen it
Ooh.
yet, Gary, no?
I have not. I have not. I've been sort of
I'll send you.
anticipating the Lancia body, the
Yeah, so did I,
Integrale
but
body.
no. It turns out that they have announced that there's going to be a 1/7 scale version of the Polo Rally. So
Ooh.
I'll send you after we finish this. I'll send you a photo of it. Well,
Very
just you can just
nice.
it's the same thing, just with a different body. You can imagine
Different body on it.
roughly what it's going to
Yeah.
look like. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about some of the trade-offs now. Obviously, going for a Traxxas and Arrma, good parts availability, strong community behind both brands. You can go on Facebook and there's going to be community groups, and you'll have an answer to a question that you have if something goes wrong. Now, you'll also have that with the budget brands as well, but what I want to talk about more so is, I think parts availability is the biggest one. I think that's the biggest con for a lot of people. It's always been the debate, when these Chinese brands started to kind of get popular, and you always had people leaving comments, or at the very least I did on my channel, saying, yeah, this thing looks great and it's fast and it looks good, all the different excuses coming out. But the biggest thing I heard, and I still hear to this day, is, yeah, but you can't get parts for it, or parts availability is terrible. That's why I spent double to go for a Traxxas, because I can get the parts next day. Now, obviously, this is getting better. Do you think that this is still a massive issue when it comes to, let's use MJX and Rlaarlo, for example. Do you still think this is one of the biggest cons for, to not go for one of these brands and to go for a Traxxas or an Arrma instead?
I suppose it's dependent on where you are in the world. Obviously, in the UK, now you've got the Serious RC, so your parts availability now is exceptional.
Yeah.
On par with other brands. Because most people now don't actually go to the hobby shop, because there just aren't that many in the UK. We're not as lucky as other places globally, where you've got places like Hobby Town, A Main Hobbies, Tower Hobbies is another one. There are hobby shops here in the UK are few and far between, so everything's online anyway.
Just while you're on the topic of that, we won't go off topic too much, because obviously this is an episode about, what we're talking about with Arrma, Traxxas, MJX Rlaarlo. But just while you're talking about hobby shops in the UK, do you think that we're losing a lot of closing down because the hobby's less popular these days compared to how much it used to be? I mean, there's no denying the hobby is losing. You're losing the interest, especially when you look at the younger generation. I think we've spoken about it before a few times. They're more interested in PlayStation, Xbox, and everything else. Exactly. iPads, the full works. Whereas
instant gratification.
Yes, it all comes down to the same thing, and that's exactly what it is. But do you think that a lot of that is the reason why we're losing hobby shops, or is that mainly due to online, being able to buy stuff online a lot easier? And do you think it's a mix of both, maybe?
I think that's part of it. There's a lot of contributing factors. I think society today, with, like I said, instant gratification, wanting stuff right here, right now, i.e. the parts availability, because you just want it. I have to say, I've been guilty of that in the past. My car's broken. Oh, I want to make sure it's back up and running straight away, which is why, as you are well aware, I've got boxes and boxes of spare.
Yeah.
So literally, if I break something, I can have it back up and running in minutes,
I've said it
rather
before.
than having to order something the next day.
Whenever we go out as a group, Gary's always got pretty much an Arrma store in his car. So if one of us breaks an Arrma that we're running, and we'll say to Gary, have you got this part in your car? He's almost certainly going to have it in his car. It's like having a mobile hobby store with you.
Yeah, but I think, when we do go out, I do like to be able to just continue to have fun. You get an idea over time of what parts are potentially going to go if you're doing a bit of sort of bashing. And if you've got one or two of those spare with you, if it does go, no sort of major. Um, but a lot of it now is when they say on parts availability, even if you're having to order it online and getting it the next day, or if it's at the weekend, you're not going to get it delivered on a Sunday, it'll be a Monday. You're going to be at work all week, so you're not going to get it sort of, you're not even going to look at the car until the following week or the weekend. What's the issue with having a car that parts are going to take a week to arrive?
Mm.
So you kind of, you can argue that fact with people, parts availability, but
No, I agree.
It's not really that much of an excuse. People like people's lives are busy, so you are running around, work, family, everything else, and you're not sort of sitting there at your front door waiting for someone to sort of post your parts through the door so you can get back out and run.
I think it's the same with people that order from China and they have to wait, up to 2 weeks for the parts to get there. A lot of the time, you don't even notice that 2 weeks. Where time is flying by so quickly these days, you order something and it just randomly turns up. I forgot I ordered that, but it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like 2 weeks. So as
No.
silly as it sounds, it's like when Banggood send me review samples. They'll place the order, and then I think, I've got to wait 2 weeks for it to turn up, and then before I know it, it's at my door. It's at my front door, and I'm thinking, oh wow, how did that go so quick? But it does. Time flies these days. So even though you might have to wait 2 weeks, up to 2 weeks, it's very rarely the full 2 weeks or longer. Sometimes it's about 7 days, 9 days, 10 days. But actually, time flies, and before you know it, the parts are there. So I don't think it's a valid argument anymore.
No.
I don't think people can
Some of the
just.
parts for the JK07 that I ordered, the chassis rails,
Were they from
I think that
Rlaarlo?
was 9 days total. 9 days.
But you're working, your family life, everything. Before you know
Yeah.
it, 9 days has flown by, and you've got your bits that you need. So I really don't think it's that much of an issue, mate. To be fair,
Not anymore. With the way the world is now, things are getting around the world a lot quicker. So the excuse of parts availability shouldn't be much of an issue, but you'll still have those stalwart fans of Arrma, Traxxas, Team Corelli, Team Associated that will say, "Well, I can get parts tomorrow."
yeah.
Okay, but you're not going to be running the car tomorrow, are you?
Mm. Yeah, true. Because you're going to have to work or whatever for the next 6 days or whatever it is. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
very true. Let's move on to durability then, because I think in the early days with a lot of the clones and a lot of the sort of cheaper Chinese brands and everything, I don't think they were built that well quality wise. Quality control hasn't always been the best. I think we all know that. But things have definitely improved, I think, recently. Um, but do you think they're as tough as some of the big, again, the big two, Traxxas and Arrma? Um, do you think they're as tough? Have you experienced any of cars from the budget brands that you would think that you sort of thought to yourself, actually, this thing's quite tough, and I definitely think it's up there with the bigger brands out there, the big two.
Yeah, the a couple of them. The previous version of the MJX you just reviewed, the
Yes,
14207, the
the
previous version.
14210.
Yeah, fantastically durable. I mean, you've really got to sort of go out of your way to try and break it, um, which is not what people do generally. There are one or two people here on this platform that do go out of their way to break things.
Durability testing, they call it.
Yeah. It feels a need for some people, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, and then you look at the newer version, the 14207, and that looks even tougher.
That thing was a beast.
Yeah, the ROG One. When you showed me the ROG One before you sort of did the review video on it, that thing looked like a tank. You know, but you put that side by side with the Granite Grom, I would have picked the ROG One every time. It just looked so well built. It looked and felt substantial, whereas a lot of the big two, they're not. They're not as substantial. They're not as,
I think it's fair to say they've definitely come a long way since they first started. You know, since the budget and affordable brand started to become quite popular. I think they've definitely come a long way. Quality's definitely improving. Quality control's improving. What about the electronics? Do you think they're comparable?
I've not really seen any of the electronics on the cheaper brands go bad.
I think we all know, I think we all know, Gary, the electronics on Traxxas cars are pretty terrible, mate, to be fair. So I think any of the budget brands out there are pretty much better than the stuff you get from Traxxas, but that's just my...
but then you say that, I mean, I'm obviously, between our group and that, we've had people that have had the ARRMA Spectrum stuff go. You with the 223S, and not just you, but loads of people have done reviews on the 223S systems.
That's not the car's fault or the ESC's fault, though. That's from using crappy batteries, apparently. Although the funny thing is, I've seen people use the recommended Spectrum batteries, and it still cut out the low voltage.
Yeah,
came on early. How does that one work then?
Yeah, I don't get that. I mean, I have been incredibly fortunate. I've had several cars with the 223S 2-in-1 systems, and touch wood, I've not had any problems with any of them at all. And even with the smart ESCs and stuff, where people have had issues with them blowing up and stuff like that, I again have not. I've been very, very fortunate. Again, touch wood. But yeah, there's you're paying premium money for substandard electronics. You've whenever you look on YouTube and you sort of seeing guys getting a new X Max or the Max or an XRT, almost straight away, the first thing they go to is electronics or gearing.
Yeah.
Every single time. That's the first thing before they do anything else. They know straight away, I know I'm going to need to sort out the electronics, and I know I'm going to need to sort out the gearing.
Now, when you're paying a massive premium for a brand like Traxxas, you would expect it to be top notch. Like the X Max,
£1,000 plus.
Yeah.
And it poops itself as soon as you take it out of the box. It's
not ideal.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't had the best experience when it comes to Traxxas electronics. On my very old Stampede VXL that I had years and years and years ago, that seemed to be okay. But lately, with my X Max, I've had nothing but issues with the ESC, the servo, and I think now I've kind of given up with it, and I refuse to spend any more money on it. So it's kind of like a £1,200-1,300 paperweight just sat in the garage, and a fairly large paperweight as well.
Yeah, people, they will spend the money on it because they feel like, I've spent all this money. I want to use it, but it's a money pit.
It's the
And
most
for those
overrated
people
truck out
who
there.
get to the point where it's like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. It is a paperweight.
Yeah, it's a
It
massively
sits there
overrated
gathering
truck.
dust.
The X Max is so incredibly overrated, and you've had a go of mine, and don't get me wrong, it is a fantastic experience, having a truck of that size and the way it drives and everything else. But for the money, you would expect it to be absolutely great, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, it's not. There's a lot that needs doing to it when you get it out of the box to make it better. All right, so we'll move on to the next bit in a second, but before we do, I do want to ask you: do you think then it's worth sacrificing? Do you think it's worth going for an MJX and Rlaarlo over a Traxxas or an Arrma, sacrificing that instant parts availability for you can pretty much go online and get bits next day, for a massive performance jump? Because we've seen this loads of times with a lot of these sort of budget brands. You're getting way more performance for sometimes a lot less money. Is it actually worth sacrificing pretty much instant parts availability to get a bit more performance and a bit more truck? Because parts are obviously quite important. Do you think it's worth that sacrifice?
definitely. No hesitation there. Definitely. Um, Again, you're looking at the instant gratification thing again. You Sometimes it is worth the sacrifice to have that bit of fun, and weighing up again, it's the pros and cons of how long is it going to take for me to get the parts. Most of the people within the hobby work bloody hard, but they're really busy, and it's not like you can literally order the parts, get it the next day, get out and run it again, because you've got your family, you've got your job, and everything else. So the parts availability thing, like we said earlier, is becoming less and less of an obstacle to going for the cheaper brands. Pay less money for the car, get a better performance, have just as much, if not more fun, if you manage to break it, because sometimes the durability is substantially better than the premium brands. It's less likely to break, and if it does break, you're still only going to be sort of getting back out with the car once you've fixed it in roughly the same kind of time frame that you would with being able to get it the parts the next day. So that sacrifice is becoming less and less and less, monthly now. It's getting like that now.
It's only getting better. I've noticed that as well.
Most definitely. I mean, you got Mike at Serious RC for MJX and Rlaarlo parts. You can pretty much get the parts next day. So again, that's primarily based in the UK. I know he ships internationally.
He sends quite a lot of stuff over to the US apparently.
Yeah, and obviously that will arrive quicker than it would if they were ordering it direct from China. And I would hazard a guess as it's probably cheaper as well. So,
All right.
go for the cheaper brands now, guys. Say
Give
cheaper,
them a
not
chance. Thing
cheaper,
is, there is a lot of brand
more
snobs out there.
affordable.
Exactly. There is a lot of brand snobs out there, though. Unfortunately, it still exists, and people will say, no, 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 I'm not parting with my Traxxas. I'm not parting with my Arrma. I'm not going for these cheap budget Chinese, junk RC cars. It's a
What do
typical
they
way.
say? It's don't knock it until you've tried it.
Absolutely. I just think you need to open your mind up a little bit. I just give it a chance, and instead of judging something straight away, give it a chance, and you never know, you might be quite surprised.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, let's move on then. Let's talk about, is it actually worth it, right? Now we'll have a look at some scenarios, and depending on the user. Now let's talk about the beginner first of all, right? Now, someone brand new to the hobby, should they go for something like a Traxxas Rustler, for example, a Bandit, or a budget option like an MJX Hyper-Go?
Hyper-Go. They're cheap. They're user friendly. Again, UK specific. Parts availability, it's there. You, as a beginner, ideally you want to not have to spend huge amounts of money. Again, you've got the proprietary power systems. Most of MJX's stuff is either Dean's or XT60, and they provide the battery with it and a charger. Where you'd have to pay a premium on top of the base price of a Traxxas and Arrma for a comparable part. And for those cars, they don't put in a LiPo, they put in nickel metal hydride. So you're getting a substandard battery pack, and you're getting usually brushed electronics, and paying 50, 60, 70% more for that vehicle than the MJX. It's kind of, how do you not make that decision to go for MJX? It's the brand snobbery. I think it's getting beyond snobbery.
I think it was yesterday I put a community post out because I just finished reviewing a UDI-RC, the 1601. Now, when I looked after to see what it was kind of comparable to and whether or not you can buy them in the UK and everything else, Model Sport, which again to everyone listening is one of the largest sort of shops here in the UK, and if Model Sport sell it, well, you're lucky because you're going to get parts and everything else. Now, I looked at how much the Granite Grum was compared to the UDI-RC, and it was actually £5 more expensive, I think. Now, when you look at the Granite Grum, plastic shocks, not the best drivetrain, I would say. Brushed motor, it's not the best.
2-in-1 ESC.
Yep, 2-in-1 ESC for the money, nearly £130. Not the best. Right, we both know that, and we've spoke about this recently, they didn't bother making a brushless version of it for some weird reason. But anyway, the UDI-RC, the 1601 that I reviewed, £4 cheaper, £5 cheaper, whatever it is. Those of you who see that video, if you haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link to that down below. But those that see that video, you would have seen the performance that you got out of that truck. Bearing in mind, this is cheaper, again, than a Granite Grum. Performs like crazy, really good fun, really good quality. I would say comparable to Rlaarlo's. How can anyone justify buying an Arrma Granite Grum? Because you're getting performance like that, and especially if there's going to be parts availability here in the UK as well, you'd have to be crazy to go for something that's subpar compared to a high quality, high performing truck like that new little UDI-RC.
Yeah, and I think the brushed version of that UDI-RC was only £68. So you're looking at nearly
half the price of
price for a comparable car.
And people say,
it's sort of like,
some of the comments on the community post, it's over on my main channel, it's still on there if you want to have a look, but some of the comments from people saying, yeah, but the quality's not as good. The quality is pretty good. If you watch the video and look at it closely, watch it in 4K, you'll see the quality's there. The quality's definitely there. It may not be ARRMA quality, but it's just a small notch below.
yeah, it's not far off.
And that's where it's getting scary now, because these brands are starting to produce cars which are very, very comparable when it comes to quality that you're getting from, the bigger brands. But they're doing it at half the price, Gary.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
How does this make any sense? Why are the prices so much more with these bigger brands? The only reason I can think of is you're paying for the brand. Because if UDIRC, for example, can put together a car that outperforms a Granite Grom for the same money, clearly, to me, that's just greed. And if ARRMA wanted to, they could give us way more for the money. All it is really is them making a massive profit. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it looks to me.
Yeah. I mean, the Granite Groms were destroying the diffs on brushed setup, let alone on the brushless setup. You've got the UDIRC brushless with the amount of power. Watching that video, watching how that thing performed, wheelie monster. I think it almost certainly on tarmac would probably do a standing backflip. The pro version, 100%. And you're paying the same price for the performance gap it's a chasm. It's huge, but you're paying more for the Granite than you are.
You're paying for the brand. I've said it before. I think the ARRMA Grom range should have been around £70-80 for the brushed cars, and I think around £150 for the brushless ones. We know the brushed ones are 130 odd. We know the brushless ones are 220. I think the Mojave's 220.
Yeah, the ones with the batteries about 225, I think.
225, right? So that's almost double the price of the little UDIRC. I just don't think we can. It's getting to that point, I think, where it's becoming really hard to justify spending that much more money for something that's not really that much better. That's the way I see it.
Definitely.
Right.
It's getting to the point where I'm pretty sure a lot of people are now feeling like they're actually getting ripped off.
Daylight robbery.
Yeah, most
right.
definitely.
Let's go back to the scenarios, Gary. So we've done the beginner, and you said you would probably recommend an MJX Hypergo over something like a Rustler or a Bandit, for example. Let's take it up a notch then. So what about the experienced basher on a budget? So let's say they've had a Hypergo. Maybe they're thinking, oh, I'd like another car. I'd like something larger. Someone who kind of knows what they're doing. They know their way around an RC car now. They've taken one apart, put it back together, replaced bits, done a couple of upgrades maybe. They're comfortable with ordering parts online. Let's say that as an example. Would you still recommend a budget brand then? Is a budget brand still a no-brainer? Or would you now say, now we've gone up a notch, we're talking about an experienced person in the hobby, would you say stick to the budget brand still, or now start to look at something from one of the larger brands?
Well, the problem we've got there is the scale size, because a lot of the proper basher cars are 1/10, 1/8, and 1/7. Obviously, then you start going into X-Max kind of size. There are very few, with the exception of the 10208 from MJX, version 1 and 2, which bit controversial.
Mm.
But that's an absolute beast of a car. The FMS
FMT10.
FMT10. Um, that's
Brilliant truck.
mental, absolutely mental. Um, you can go for brands like that and those cars and go side by side with your Arrma 223S Granite, Big Rock, your Traxxas. Well, the sledges are bigger, obviously. Um, yeah, you could definitely quite happily go with some of the cheaper brands. It'd be nice to see a real nice basher from Rlaarlo, a proper 110th. You've got the Omni Terminate, which is a mini 110th.
Also
If
known
they
as a
could,
112.
yeah. Obviously, the average height of people, in other parts of the world is slightly smaller, so they probably, they probably see it as a 110. Yeah. Yeah. If they produced proper 110th and 1/8 scale, I'd quite happily go
I think
with Rlaarlo or MJX.
it's something I've been asking for. I know it's something a lot of other YouTubers have been asking for as well. We do really want to start seeing larger cars now. I think a lot of us are sick and tired of the smaller cars. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like the smaller stuff. Your 1/14th, 1/16th, 1/12th. But I think it's getting to a point now where the market is so oversaturated when it comes to mini RC cars. I think we need to start seeing some larger cars, especially if MJX and Rlaarlo want to take it up a notch and kind of be up there with the top players in the hobby kind of thing. Your Traxxas, your ARRMA, your Team Associated, Losi, and everything else. I think bigger cars need to come, and they need to hit the market sooner rather than later to allow MJX and Rlaarlo to continue the popularity that they've gained, for that to continue and for them to continue going up the ladder. I think they need to start doing that sooner rather than later. Instead of releasing smaller cars, give us some good, high quality, affordable 1/10 scale cars and above.
Yeah, definitely. My hope is both are taking their time currently to iron out any issues or problems that they foresee. So with the 10208 from MJX, with the size of the Omni Terminator, if they actually produced a larger Omni Terminator and did proper testing, proper not market research, proper R&D and testing prior to sending it out to you guys, to ensure when they do send them out for review, they're not having to say to you, "Oh no, don't release that video just yet because we're going to do revisions and everything else." 10208 for prime example. I'm hoping that's what they're currently doing in the background now, but they really do need to start pushing those forward now. I'm really sort of trying to get those out on the market. It'd be fantastic if they could do that before Christmas. Rlaarlo have been sort of hinting at larger scale cars for the last few months.
There's been a lot of talk, but very little actually.
Substance.
Yeah.
With the few lives that they've done, where people have anticipated them actually properly, formally announcing those releases, and it turns out no. Which Rlaarlo, pull your finger out. You know, they really need to sort of step it up a bit and just bite the bullet. They've already produced really good quality stuff. They just need to say, we've done our due diligence, we've done everything we can to make sure these things are quality. Let's get them out there and get it done. And I think they'll fly off the shelves.
I agree. Yeah.
Definitely.
Right.
And I think that'll be when Arrma and Traxxas will seriously be sat there and their backsides will be twitching.
I think that's the only reason they're not that worried at the moment. I think they're obviously watching. I think they'd be silly not to be watching, you know, seeing what's being released and what's coming to the market and what these sort of cheaper brands are bringing to the market. But I don't think they're that bothered yet. And I think that's because there isn't that many larger options out there. You know, I mean, if you think about it, if I ask you one quick question, what's the most popular scale in the hobby? Do you think it's 1/10?
I'd say 1/10 is probably the go-to.
So let's say then, all right, let's say then 1/10 is the most popular scale in the RC hobby, yeah? How many 1/10 scale trucks do MJX and Rlaarlo have? Not very many. And I think that's the downfall at the moment. The fact that the larger brands are controlling so much of the larger scale, the 1/10 scale and above market. And I think that's why they're not that scared at the moment, because they're still controlling. They might have lost control of the smaller market, you know, the smaller cars. That's gone. You know, these budget brands and affordable brands have well and truly taken over. There's just hundreds of different options out there now, which are so much better than the smaller cars that we're seeing from Traxxas and Arrma. But they still have control of the 1/10 scale stuff and the 1/8 scale stuff. And until MJX and Rlaarlo start to release cars of that size, where, you know, they get sent out, reviewers have a look at them, you know, the YouTubers grab them and everyone else gets them, and you kind of realise, wow, this thing is good. You know, this thing costs half as much as an Arrma, half as much as a Traxxas, and we're getting like similar performance. That is, I think, that's going to be the turning point. I think that's going to be when Traxxas and Arrma, both, you know, their research and development departments and everything else, will start to get a little bit twitchy and a bit scared, because then they're going to realise, hang on, we possibly might be losing people now. We've controlled this side of the market for so long, and now all of a sudden we're slowly losing it. And I think then there'll be changes made. What changes, I don't know, but I think there will be changes.
I hope it happens soon. I really do. So I really hope they sort of pull their finger out soon, because
the thing is, Gary, if they don't, and anyone out there who disagrees, feel free to tell me, but I think if they don't start to produce what people are now asking for, it could start to go the other way. The popularity that they've built and grown over the last couple of years is going to start to fade away. And that's the thing with a lot of these new brands that come along. If they don't continue that upward, you know, that climb, if they don't continue and keep giving people what they want, the interest gets lost. People start to lose interest, and people will go, do you know what? Just go back to our old brands that we're used to, Traxxas and Arrma. You know, they have to keep innovating. They have to keep going up. And at the moment, throwing out, you know, every other month a mini car just to kind of keep it ticking over, I don't think that's only going to go so far. And I do think it's reached that point now where the market is so oversaturated that we do need to start seeing larger cars. And like you said there, it needs to be soon.
Yeah. I think they've more than reinforced their foundations within the hobby. They now need to start building upwards 100%. If they don't, people will just lose interest, and it will just be too late. People are, well, we wanted this a year ago, 18 months ago, 2 years ago. You know, Arrma and that have decided to bring out slightly more innovative RCs, and you just
people lose interest and move on very quickly, mate.
Yeah,
and that is the truth of it. Right, one last scenario for you, and then we'll kind of summarize the video. And I've got one more question to ask you at the end, which is kind of what this whole episode has been about. Sorry. Now, we've done the beginner, we've done the experienced basher on a budget. The final one is the modder / tinkerer. So someone who enjoys doing upgrades, enjoys working on their cars, enjoys fitting aftermarket parts, you know, to make the car better. Arguably not always required, especially when it comes to metal upgrades. Totally pointless. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time. What do you think is now the better choice? Do you still think it's something from a budget brand, or do you think now, you know, when it comes to parts and upgrades, would they be better off going for one of the bigger brands out there?
Because there are aftermarket manufacturers producing so much for the bigger brands, availability to do upgrades, tinkering, and stuff like that is more prevalent within, you know, Arrma, Traxxas, Team Associated, Corrali kind of environment there. Although they do parts for the smaller brands, it's a much smaller market. So on that kind of thing, at the moment, you're going to have to sort of look at the bigger brands for that kind of thing, for doing the tinkering and stuff. You know me, I like doing me tinkering and stuff. So yeah, I think it's a bigger brand bit
It's
at the
like
moment.
the Traxxas Slash, for example, is like one of those trucks that you can just buy endless upgrade bits for it. Same as the X Max, all the popular trucks out there, you can it's just an almost unlimited aftermarket support. There are just endless upgrades out there from many different companies, you know.
Yeah,
And I think I would agree. I think once you get to the point where you've had the MJX Hypergo, you've had, you know, something for the experienced basher, you've had the middle thing, the middle ground. You've now got to a point where you're looking at the sort of more top tier cars. You know, the stuff that you can upgrade, and you're getting serious in the hobby now. I do think, and again, like we said previously, I think it does come down to scale, size, and there not being that many larger options now. Because I think once you kind of take the next step up to the more sort of high end performance cars, you are going to be going 1/10, 1/8, probably 1/8. You know, 6S 1/8, and there isn't that many, if any, good options from the likes of MJX and Rlaarlo, which again kind of means you have no other choice but to
yeah,
go for,
you
yeah,
sort of stuck within that environment. Yeah, they need to pull their finger out, like I said.
totally agree. I think that it's got to that point now where we do need to start seeing larger cars, especially if these brands want to continue growing and they don't want things to go wrong, because it can go. I mean, look at WL Toys. You know, it can go very wrong very quick if you don't continue going up and
Yeah,
listening to people. Listen to the community, listen to reviewers, listen to people, read comments. You know, I post a video, Rlaarlo read comments. You know, you sometimes get the CEO of Rlaarlo in the comment section replying to comments, and
yeah,
they do listen. You know, and so do MJX. They might not comment on videos all the time, but I will always say, you know, leave your comments in the comment section, and I'll pass all of that on to them. And then I do, you know, I'll write a long email out with all the different comments and points people have made, and this is what the community want to see. And sometimes they go away and make those changes because it's what the people want to see.
yeah,
You know, when you look at the first Hypergo cars that come out, they had GPS and all features that the car community don't really need. You know, they were trying to incorporate drone technology in their early Hypergo cars with massive transmitters with the GPS and the speedo thing that you could have on your phone. And I remember
yeah,
writing an email out saying, MJX, it's nice that you've finally produced an RC car, but we don't need all of this stuff. You know, with the proprietary battery and the GPS technology and the speedo thing and the Bluetooth, we don't need any of that. What we want is a good, high quality, good performing mini basher or bashers. You know, and that's what will sell and do well. They got rid of all of that stuff. Next thing we see is the new Hypergos hit the market, which didn't have any of that stuff. A normal battery, nicer transmitter, and look at how well that's done. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of, you know, the Hypergo range are one of the most popular, some of the most popular cars out there now, because they kept it basic, kept it, you know, good looking cars, listened to the community, gave us what we want. There you go, popularity. You know, and if as long as they continue that, and this is where they really need to start listening to, you know, reviewers and the community. Give us what we want. We want larger cars. We're at a point now where we need the larger cars.
Do it, hello, MJX, larger.
Right then, so we're almost at the end. And looking at the timer, we're going over an hour. So most people who no, it's fine though, because most people, the feedback I've had, and I know you read the comments as well, the feedback from people is that they quite like the longer episodes. They quite like the informal side to these podcast episodes. Some people even stick them on their way to work in the car. So being an hour long is absolutely fine. And, you know, you're allowed to be a little bit longer with the podcast stuff. Now, final point then, Gary. Final question I've got for you. Do you think they need to be worried? Do you think Traxxas and Arrma do need to be worried? Or is all of this just, again, me having a moan? You know, people like to say I'm always moaning, I'm making a fuss for no reason. Do you agree with all of this? Do you think they need to be worried, or is this just, you know, again, me just making a fuss, making it all up?
Has this podcast been just hyperbole? No, I think they genuinely need to be worried. I think they really do genuinely need to watch this space, because, and I really do mean this, Rlaarlo, MJX, if you're going to do what you've been hinting at for the last couple of months, you need to do it, and do it soon. Because if you don't, you're going to fall by the wayside. And when they do it, with, and as long as they stay with the formula that they've currently got, yeah, I think they'll be knocking at the door of Arrma and Traxxas and other sort of big brands as well. Most definitely.
I think hobby shops as well, especially here in the UK, I don't think they take a lot of the affordable budget brands that seriously. I think they're known, or they would look at them and think load of junk. I think that there seems to be a common thing in the community that, at the very least, with the hobby shop side of things. And I think that could be because, again, a lot of the cars are mini cars. They're not taken that seriously with the more serious side of the hobby.
Yeah.
But again, I think larger cars, 1/10 and above, I don't think hobby stores can just laugh it off. I think once there's...
Or even the UK distributors, was it Logic RC and CML? I think that they won't have the option to sort of say, well, you know, it's going to be, yeah, we really need to sort this out. So yeah, I think
we're living in a time now. You know, the times are changing with everything. You know, the hobby as a whole, just everything's changing. But I think people need to stop being old-fashioned and stop being. They need to welcome new ideas, try new things. You know, and I think it's like you said. You know, a lot of the UK distributors and UK shops and everything else, I think they're so like, it has to be branded. It has to be a team associated. It has to be an Arrma. It has to be a Traxxas. We're not displaying a Rlaarlo on the shelf for customers to come in and look at. It has to be a known brand that's been around for 20 plus years. No, it doesn't have to be anymore. It doesn't have to be. Many years ago, yes, I would have probably agreed that the early Chinese cars were probably fairly low quality and not very good. But they've got to a point now where they're getting very close, quality and performance wise, if not better performance. The quality's just got a little bit further to go, I think, just a little bit further. If they can give you the same quality or better and good performance at half the price, I'd be seriously worried if I was Traxxas and Arrma. Seriously,
Yeah,
seriously worried, and it's 90. I would say it's 90% there, if not 95% there.
definitely, 100%.
Well, I'll be interested to hear what everybody else, what everybody else makes of this. Do you agree with me and Gary? Do you think that they need to be worried, or do you think that there's nothing to worry about? Or again, I'm going to say it again. I do think once the larger cars start hitting the market, and there's quite a few of them, I don't think they can be ignored anymore. Especially if
No.
they turn out to be good. If the larger cars that come to the market do end up being good, I really do think Traxxas and Arrma should be worried and concerned.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I think
Ooh.
we have pretty much covered everything, Gary.
Cool.
So I think we'll end it there. It's gone on for an hour and 10 minutes, almost an hour and 10 minutes, but I think it's something we needed to talk about, because I know we speak a lot about this kind of stuff off camera, but I think it's nice, and I think the people like to hear conversations like this, topics that don't always get spoken about. I think some channels are a little bit scared sometimes to mention the big T, because I think they don't like bad advertising, but essentially everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
It's not bad advertising, it's just an honest opinion. And I think
yeah.
the haters out there that say you're always moaning and you're always saying negative stuff and all the rest of it, but someone has to, or a group of people do have to say what's on their mind. And otherwise, how do these brands know where to improve? How do they know what changes to make? If everyone's just staying quiet and accepting it for what it is, there's never going to be any change.
Well, also, if people are moaning that, oh, you're always moaning, you're always being negative on this, well, maybe that's because you're telling the truth. If you've got a channel or several channels that are just constantly saying, oh, this is good and that's good and this is good and that's good, and there's no bad things about something.
There are channels out there that I have seen over the years that I don't think have ever had a negative review, even when things went badly wrong. Apparently the thing that was being reviewed was still brilliant. It was just a bit of bad luck. No, you are allowed to say it's terrible, and if the company says, well, you gave us a bad review, we're not sending you anything else, then unfortunately it is what it is. You that's it. You take it on the
Who are you beholden to? Are you beholden to manufacturers, or are you beholden to your subscribers and your viewers?
Yeah, you know what I'm like. I'm very much I'm transparent. I'm honest at all times. And I think that's what's helped me grow my channel throughout the years. Because if people, if something's good, like the little WL Toys buggy that I reviewed a couple of days back, I said it was terrible. And it was. And there's still people defending it in the comment section, saying you were unfair to it, and all it needs is a set of oil shocks, and it needs this and it needs that. But if it needs this and it needs that, why didn't they do that in the first place? Charge a little bit more money and make it a little bit better, and then it would have got a good review, wouldn't it? Come on, what more can I say? Gary, it's been brilliant, mate. It's been brilliant as usual.
Indeed.
It's always nice to get someone else's opinion, and and again, me and Gary do speak quite a lot. Looking forward to going out on the 5th. We're all meeting up. We're part of a fairly large group now. There's quite a few of us who meet up. There's a lot of kids involved as well. A lot of us have got kids. There's grandkids coming along. What started with about 4 of us has now turned into probably 15 plus, I think, or close to 15, maybe even more. And I think it's great. I think it's great for us all to get out and enjoy the hobby together. And I've always thought it's better when there's a few of you. You've got a few cars running around and you're racing each other and just enjoying the hobby. But most importantly, it's nice just to get out and chat and be part of a group.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us get a lot from that. Because we've got such busy lives. With our working and in family life and everything else. For a lot of us, it's a bit of an escape for the day. We'll charge the cars up, go out and have some fun, and we tend to do that every other month, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, more so like when it's just either me and you, or me, you, and one or two of the others. because obviously people have got busy lives. Yeah, I think it's definitely a positive thing in the normal sort of humdrum mundanity of life. It's a definite positive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously the winter's coming in now, so things slow down a little bit, but I'm sure we'll still get out when we can.
Oh yeah.
All right, Gary. Well, look, mate, it's been fantastic once again. It's always nice to have you on. No doubt we will cover some other topic in the near future. I'm off work for quite a while soon, so I'm sure we'll come up with another topic or another idea. You know, we'll be chatting, and all of a sudden we'll go, "Oh, maybe we should talk about that on the podcast." It always seems to happen. So, yeah, looking forward to it, mate.
Cool.
All right, mate. Well, you have a good one. You take it easy, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers, Gary.
All right, mate. Speak soon.
Cheers, mate. So it was good to hear Gary's take on all of this on the podcast, but I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Traxxas and Arrma, for example, should be worried about some of the smaller brands out there like MJX, Rlaarlo, UDIRC, Hypoxin? You know, the list is becoming endless now. There are so many good options out there. Should they be worried? Let me know in the comment section down below. I love hearing from you guys, and if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well, and I'll catch you on the next one.